Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the BitcoinMeister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to This Week in Bitcoin. Today is September the 25th, 2020. Strong hand, long-term thinking. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. Be a unique beast. Really, be a unique beast. I'm offended by selling. Best freaking guest in the space. They are here today. Brandon has returned. Linear Trav has returned. He's the 3D, 3D printing dude. And Truth Raider has made his first appearance on the show. They are all linked to below, okay? And since Truth Raider is the newbie on the show, but a veteran of Twitter, many of you know him and are following him already, we're going to start with him. I like unique beast. I like unique news. And I thought it was pretty unique earlier this week when it was announced by Steve Barber, cryptically announced, that he would be mining Bitcoin for a city. He didn't say what city, but he said he would be mining Bitcoin for a city. A city would mine. So he's in Canada. I assumed it would be a Canadian city. There's big cities. There's little cities. Like if Calgary makes an announcement they're mining Bitcoin, that would be freaking awesome. So I got my fingers crossed on that. But Truth Raider, you commented it on Twitter, and you kind of downplayed it a little bit. You said you knew of other cities. So what's your take? Is this a big deal? Am I making too big of a deal out of all this?
No, it's a big deal. It's not it happens. It happens all over. It happens in Asia. It happens in Europe, in the Middle East. There's lots of places that are mining for local governments. That's happening all over the world. However, they don't talk about it because it's not something that's broadcast. So it's a double-sided coin. He's probably working with a city to mine Bitcoin, which is something unique. My point was there's people mining not as open. You know what I mean? So there's
yeah, you don't want to lay it all out there what you're doing if you're a city and you're secretly mining it or whatever. But I wonder if it'll ever be revealed what Canadian city is doing this. So I'm glad to hear that.
I think he will. I think what he's doing is he's probably working with the city, and he's probably working with one of the major oil companies or natural gas companies up in Canada. So he's probably got a partnership with because he's doing a lot of work already with the byproducts basically. Yeah. He's mining Bitcoin mining off energy byproducts. So he probably made a deal with whatever city where he's doing it. He said, "Hey guys, I'm doing this. Do you want to make a corporate deal with, whatever big company he's working with?" And they're like, "Yeah," like whether, like an Exxon or a BP or something like that. That's my guess.
Now, you're saying that you do know in this big old world of ours that there are other cities that are mining Bitcoin.
Of course. Yeah.
But you can't name them or anything like that. Are they bigger cities or?
No, most of it's in the third world, places like in Bulgaria, in different places in China and Iran. A lot of the local municipalities are mining Bitcoin.
With the Iran, we're always hearing these stories like Iran is going to mine so much Bitcoin. That's not just hype. There are people really doing it there.
Of course, there's a really good. If you want to see the really cool thing about Bitcoin hash rate calculators, there's one from Oxford. It's like the Oxford Bitcoin hash rate calculator, and what they do is it shows every country and every location in the world that's using the Bitcoin blockchain and the hash rate that it produces. So you can physically see each country, what percentage and how much hash rate they're producing for the network. You can't hide it. It's visible. What you can hide is the physical location and the physical person that's doing the mining. That's what's not advertised. So that's what I mean. Like in China, there are for sure 100% municipalities mining Bitcoin, 100%. I mean, in Bulgaria, I think it was 2018, they had a parliament meeting where they said, "Hey, we're doing Bitcoin mining." like on the floor of Parliament. So that's kind of what I mean. Like, is it a big deal that cities are mining Bitcoin? Yeah. But I would argue it's already happening. They just don't talk about it.
All right. Very good point. Very good point. Let's go to Linear Trav. What's your take?
Well, I think this is an instance where you see the Cantillon effect and Gresham's law converging. If you can imagine what they did over at MicroStrategy, right? It's the first snowflake in the avalanche for various businesses to show that, hey, we're getting involved in this because the current system, the fiat, literally they said, is melting. And I think now you see cities themselves that are farther away from the central government money spigot find that they need to fend for themselves, just like the companies of MicroStrategies and others that are not really being open with their investments. But I think when you have people looking for that better money, that free money, the institutions that we find out about are just going to get larger and larger. I mean, as far as the cities and the countries and companies, I just think the world really is in dire need for free money. And, Bitcoin is the answer. And now people are starting to ask the question. So when I hear that there's a city now starting to mine, that means they've been doing a lot of homework. And obviously they have.
Yeah, it's interesting that the media hasn't. I picked up Steve's tweet got retweeted quite a bit. I talked about it on my show on Wednesday, but CoinDesk, the main dudes haven't talked about it yet. That's interesting. I'm just throwing it out there. Brandon, what's your take?
Oh, first off, it's interesting you throw that out there because we at Bitcoin Magazine are trying to get Steve to give us the scoop. So stay tuned. Maybe we'll get lucky and he'll leak it to us. Maybe he'll go, CoinDesk or someone else, who knows, but we're definitely trying to track it down. I have a few takes kind of piggybacking on what you guys said a little bit. First and foremost, it's not surprising to me at all that cities want to mine Bitcoin. And especially you should be able to tie those cities to where, government subsidies for electricity exist. Because it's basically free money at that point, right? Especially, they're trying to balance budgets. They can't go into debt, that kind of stuff. Well, if you can effectively incrementally increase your budget a little bit by mining Bitcoin and then selling the profits of that, then that makes total sense to me. I don't know why they wouldn't be doing that. So I bet we would see that the cities that mine Bitcoin overwhelmingly have subsidized power as well. And that's just really an arbitrage play that they're doing. So that'd be my first take. Second take, and this is like my dumb take, is that when I originally read the tweet that Steve put out, he ended it with ohm or something like that, but it was like OHMMM or something like that. So I was like, I wonder if he's giving us a hint here. And my two gut reactions were either it's some place where people meditate a lot, or it's Omaha, Nebraska. So there's my two guesses. I have no idea beyond that.
Ohm is the system he has set up to mine natural gas offsets. So what that ohm was that's why I thought originally he has is a deal with the city and a company, gas company, natural gas company, in order to mine, because ohm is the miner. That's what his miner is. That's
gotcha.
Okay. Yeah. So he's given a hint. He's dropping a hint.
I figured it had to be a hint somehow. I didn't know that was what his rigs were called. But
they're called ohms. Ohms. Yeah.
You bring up a good point though, that there is a huge mining opportunity that we've seen now a bunch of different people trying to jump into, which is taking we have regulatory restrictions around flaring excess natural gas and oil and that kind of stuff. And so, if this is what he's doing, that makes total sense, that basically he's, taking the flaring and repurposing that into more energy production to use specifically for mining. So very interesting.
Indeed. Well, let's. Do you guys have anything else to say about that? All right, we'll move on. We'll keep Brandon here because you brought this up to me. Over 100,000 Bitcoins are wrapped on Ethereum now, and I put "on" in quotes because for me, I don't know why anyone even. It's for people that want to play in the DeFi space, basically. But Brandon, this was a story for you. You talk about this story.
Yeah, so 100% agree. People are only doing this because there's, DeFi games to play, right? And they can't play it on the Bitcoin chain, so they're wrapping it onto Ethereum, right? What makes it interesting to me is actually the risk that it sets up from a couple standpoints, right? First off, you have the whatever gateways, the BitGos, if they're creating more of them. There are ways for that to spectacularly fail, and so if and when that happens, that's going to be a brand new scam that we've never seen before. It's going to be somewhat akin to an exchange hack, but from a totally different perspective, where you'll still have tokenized Bitcoin on Ethereum that now hasn't been seized. It's not gone. No one's taken that from you, but the Bitcoin on the Bitcoin chain may have been taken from you. And what does that do to the economics? I have no idea, right? And then the second thing that's really interesting to me is that if more Bitcoin gets wrapped onto Ethereum, you begin to see legitimate security risks posed to Ethereum, because this is $1 billion now sitting not on the ETH base. It's not ETH, right? It's an ERC20 token. So that sort of risk profile that it introduces to that chain, maybe $1 billion isn't the number, but if you have 40 billion and ETH's market cap is 40 billion, all of a sudden you're starting running into some very weird security issues of wrapping Bitcoin onto there. So ETH's now effectively a Bitcoin sidechain, and that's cool. But I don't think that people have game theoried out exactly all that risk that it entails when you start wrapping Bitcoin onto Ethereum. I don't think it's Bitcoin.
No, it's not. It's not Bitcoin, but it is interesting that it's become a sidechain to Bitcoin. And if people want to dabble in this, be my guest. Is Ethereum the next Ethereum though? Can another can there be a competitor that replaces Ethereum as the main Bitcoin sidechain that's doing all this fun stuff? That's is Tron? Are you going to be able to tokenize on Tron? What's your, or do you even care, Brand? Well, Brand, you work for Bitcoin Magazine, so you might not care, but I just thought I would bring it up there because I think I don't think anybody can surpass Ethereum for what they're doing now, for the good or for the bad. But what's your take, Brand?
Yeah, I think that side chains are interesting from the standpoint of what can we enable for Bitcoin. So I do care from that perspective in terms of, there's no loyalty for me for, one side chain versus another. I will say, I think that Ethereum's real moat is the number of people who bought at $7 and are now sitting at, 400 or whatever it's at, that, are very invested into Ethereum from a allegiance perspective, and that moat of, community and dev talent probably won't be surpassed, in my opinion. You got Dot, who just came out recently and has, a technologically superior platform and all that kind of stuff, but it launched at $1 billion valuation. So it's not like people are in it, they don't have their pockets really invested except for a couple VCs. So I don't think that that's going to be a competing project, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to be a really competitor.
Well, we're going to move on to Truth Raider and his take on 100,000 Bitcoin wrapped on Ethereum. What is your take? It is a honeypot of destruction, but what's your take on the situation?
My personal take is there is no. I agree. There's no Bitcoin on Ethereum. It's just it's a novelty act. And what's funny that you mentioned it is today there was an AMA with Tron and BitGo where they just announced Wrap BTC on Tron. Literally just did. They did the whole copy paste, which Tron. I actually like Tron because I like the fact that they take what Ethereum does and they do it better, build momentum, and then crush it, and then they wait for Ethereum to do something out there again, and then they just replicate it and crush it. It's like free money, just staring at Ethereum, because Ethereum. The only way Ethereum will scale is with other solutions. On chain, Ethereum will never scale, in my opinion. It has zero chance of scaling without some layer 2 something else that makes it scalable. So I think BTC is another one of those hey, let's do something fancy in the DeFi space to make everybody come over to Ethereum. But what does it do? What does Wrap BTC do? What's the purpose?
It's
That's my question.
It's so you
What's
can
the
trade
purpose?
to get traded on like sushi or one of those exchanges or whatever.
Pizza
But
or
Uniswap,
whatever,
it's so you can go on Uniswap, right? Brandon, is that the answer?
Yeah, I mean, there are DeFi tools that you can kind of use with it. The biggest one being Uniswap, where you can stake that Bitcoin, wrapped Bitcoin, in a liquidity pool, and then you're basically providing liquidity on an exchange that you can start getting trading like fees for. But I mean, it's all games. It's all wand waving. I mean, there's not really value there.
So it's wrap BTC then is like everything else Ethereum keeps putting out. It's a trader tool or it's a developer tool. That's what Ethereum people do. They build dev tools and they build tools that are just for traders. That's my take. Like I'm waiting for like, hey, here's a good idea outside Ethereum. You know?
So with that in mind, now part of the reason I bring up Tron is because, well, Udi on Twitter, whenever people bring up Ethereum, he brings up Tron. It seems like it's kind of
I love it.
It's a joke. It's a joke. But seriously though, do you think that Tron could replace Ethereum? So I say Ethereum is the next Ethereum. I don't think anyone can surpass Ethereum. But how about you, Truth Raider?
No, I'll go on record saying Tron's better than Ethereum. I've got no problem saying that.
But
every day of the week.
It's better, but we're talking about mass adoption type of stuff.
I think what people like. I'm American. You guys, I think Canadian Americans.
All Americans, yeah, all Americans here. Yeah.
All Americans. Okay. Well, my point to that was Americans like us that don't think open-minded about the situation forget the fact that Tron is bringing in a shitload of money from Asia. Like if you look at USDT on Tron and you look at the amount of money flowing into Tron from the Asian markets, like Justin Sun uses like America and Canada as like a novelty act, but in reality, Justin Sun is playing China. He's playing like Hong Kong, Japan, Korea. Like people are forgetting the fact that like overseas, like he is a big deal. So like that's what people forget. Like honestly, like I think he's gonna dominate Asian markets once it grows bigger, just because of branding, man. That's my take.
Well, this reminds me of 2016 when we would talk about Litecoin, and there were many entities in Asia that just like Litecoin because of Charlie Lee and his connection. So that's
not. I would say that's not the same though, because the equivalency is not the same because and it's not about Tron, it's about perception. For example, the Chinese National Bank sees Tron as their view is that Tron is building the second best blockchain out there. Like that's one of their viewpoints. So like, it's not like a novelty act, like where Satoshi Light was like a novelty. Litecoin was a novelty. You know, like Justin Sun is working with governments. He's talking to governments. He's not talking to like, you know, like putting a tag on a UFC mat that says Litecoin. You know, like there's a huge difference. Like it's not the same. Like it's not the same equivalent. Like he's gunning for Ethereum. That's what Justin Sun is doing. And
good. I don't know. Good for him. Compete, don't complain on his part. He is. I mean, he's good at marketing himself too, and making himself as a big public figure in the space. Do you think? I mean, now that we're talking about him, we're going beyond Bitcoin here for a second. But do you know how he purchased Steemit? Do you think he can stave that thing?
Nobody cares about that. Like I use Tron, right? Like I like Bitcoin. Bitcoin will always be number one. Like okay. I think Bitcoin is the future of micropayments and it's the future of payments. It just hasn't, like the layer 2 side of it hasn't been solved. I think Bitcoin will figure that out.
You just answered another. Oh, sorry. Please.
No, so I'm not like one of these people that think like, I think Bitcoin is the future of payments. It's just going to be something that's not created yet. However, that doesn't mean, like I said, just research USDT Tron and try it. You use USDT Tron and then try USDT Ethereum. Try them both out for a couple days, for a week. Spend a week on both of them. Do an experiment and see how you feel at the end of that 7-day period. So that's just an idea, you know, like That's what I tell people. Like, if you haven't tried it, and everybody in Asia I talk to uses USDT Tron. Everybody, everybody uses it. So they use it for payments. They use it for, it's the Ethereum argument doesn't work for payments. For payments, it doesn't work for payments.
We're going to get into the stable coins soon in this show, and I'm glad you sort of answered my question. You would be like a Bitcoin firster. You're willing to look at these other ones. You've clearly experimented, but you're not ever changing your mind on Bitcoin being number one.
I think Bitcoin is the future of payments. I think it's going to be a payment. It's the future of money, but it's also the future of payments. I think a layer 2 solution is going to solve the scalability problem for Bitcoin. And I think it's going to be used internationally for payments. I still believe that. I still haven't left that train of thought, even though I like Tron.
Okay. Wow, a legitimate liker. And this guy's a real deal dude here too. A legitimate guy who likes Tron. To each his own. This is good. I bring you unique beast. Pound that freaking like button, people. Because I was looking over your whole Twitter feed. There's some people are going to see your Twitter feed and they're going to be like, well, who is this guy? Because you talk about different ones that I never talk about, definitely. But yeah, we're getting a little bit of Tron insight today. I never knew that would happen. All right, but you never know what you're going to get on this freaking show. Now, all right, let's go to Linear Trav. Last time Linear Trav was on, we had Ty Zen on, and Ty Zen is verbose, so Linear Trav didn't get to speak very much. I know you actually don't have much to say.
It was spirited, though. We had a good conversation. I bought back a little bit. So.
All right, what's your take on 100? Just on the concept of wrapped BTC.
Well, the first thing I got to ask, kind of tongue in cheek, is that 120 billion or 1.2 billion number even correct, since they can't even calculate their number of each function? That's kind of mean, but and they like to tout how many wrapped Bitcoin they have compared to Lightning, but what's actually being used? Kind of like you said, Lightning is gaining traction as a use case for payments. And this thing, my buddy was playing this, whatever, the sushi game or whatever. And he was up 30% in a day, pulled it out, but he had to pay $30 transaction fee. And I'm like, how do you even get there even with that? And it just reminds me of Safety's quote, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
All right. Good reminders there. Long-term thinking, people. Long-term thinking. Now, I do want to. There's a question from the audience that we'll start with. This deals with what we've been talking about. We'll start with Brandon. Are any of the guests excited about any Bitcoin third layers yet? Oh man, talking about the third layers before the second layers are complete. But this is the way of the world. Everyone rushes things. Brandon, is that too deep of a question there?
Well, I don't know exactly what third layer means in this context. Maybe it means like Lightning apps or something like that. I will say one thing that I myself am really interested in. I know Bitcoin Magazine, we've covered it a lot. The Lightning Strike by Jack Mallers is just one of the coolest UI UX experiences with Lightning. I think that's a brilliant product. We've been following it closely because we really do think this is going to be one of those equivalent to a Venmo or something like that. It makes so much sense. It's so cool how he's built the product. If you haven't checked it out, we got some articles, you can go check them out. But besides that, so many of the games. All right, I'm going to cut this answer short because I could be really long-winded here. But what I will say is that so many of the financial products that we expect to be built onto Bitcoin, I don't think are necessary when you have Bitcoin as your standard of money. I was talking about this the other day, but even all the way up to most of the things on DeFi really are just leverage games. And when you have Bitcoin, you don't really need leverage anymore. Bitcoin is deflationary in and of itself. You don't have to, constantly be speculating and adding risk on in order to get more value. Bitcoin just appreciates. So I think that that's a weird flip of the mind. And so because of that, like, you don't need all these financial games, these financial tools in order to have a successful product. You just need hard money and a way to transact it cheaply, and like security around it. And that's really all we need to worry about building. So layer 3 is cool. Layer two is way cooler. Layer one's where it's at. So that's kind of where I'd put it.
Yeah, I also like to keep it as simple as possible, but there's lots of people out there. Everyone can do their own thing. Truth Raider, your interpretation of third layer solutions. You want to address that one?
I mean, you're only talking about tens of millions of dollars that have been used on layer 2 right now. So like, I don't even want to dream about layer 3 until that layer 2 solution's fixed. I'm not even going to pretend like I know how to fix that.
I think that's a good take. I think that's a good take. People rush here. Now, there was another comment from Max X, and it's actually an interesting comment, so I'll throw it out there. These guys must really hate Blockstream's liquid network then, because when we were talking about side chains before. So, any thoughts on that? Anyone?
The reason I don't like or dislike, I like Blockstream. Back in the day when there was the block size wars, increasing the block size or not. Back in the day, a lot of people, there's an infighting on the blockchain about how to move forward with Bitcoin that never will be resolved. I think it's always going to be the same way. It's going to be the way it is. So my idea of liquid is, I think Lightning has a better chance because it's going to get more money poured into it. It's going to have more developers pump into it, but maybe it'll work. I don't know, but I like Lightning more than I like liquid, to be honest.
Yeah, I think this guy oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I think the good thing is that there's a choice. These are tools that we're talking about, and some tools over time are sharper than others, and they get used more, and then they get developed more and enhanced. So from that standpoint, if it's not a tool that takes off like Lightning will, then it'll just die off. It's not. I mean, I don't think it's.
I think I think what Bitcoin needs is, like, I guess my point is, you got Lightning, you got liquid. There'll probably be 10 other second layer 2 solutions, right? What we need is, like, we need a USB drive for Bitcoin. We need something that everybody says, this is the USB for Bitcoin. This is how you do micropayments. Everybody knows that Bitcoin is the standard. Cool, that's awesome. We've already settled that argument. Let's all agree on the device and make it the best device possible that everybody uses. The same they do with every other tech that gets adopted.
I think one of the guy's points, and he didn't really elaborate what his point was that we were all ripping on Wrap BTC, saying it was pointless, but then he was wondering what is everybody's take on liquid, which is it's sort of comparable, I guess. I think that's what the dude was getting at there.
So wait, could I do a real quick take, because I understand
please.
exactly what he's trying to say.
Okay, good. Yeah.
So from my perspective, there's a couple things at play. One is like the federated gateway. It's like, who is custodying the Bitcoin that's being transacted in order to get it onto the next layer, right? So there are differences there, and honestly, I haven't read enough about liquid to know exactly how their federated process works, but it's not permission. Like, not anyone can just get LBTC right now. That's number one. Number two is that every single one of these layer 2s has inherent security risks that are not present in layer 1 Bitcoin. And so from my perspective, nothing layer 2, whether it's Lightning, whether it's wrapped Bitcoin, whether it's liquid Bitcoin, none of those are Bitcoin themselves. If they were every bit as secure, then we would put everything up on those layer 2s and not have to worry about it. It's not as secure. There are inherent risks. That doesn't mean it's bad, but it just means that from the way that I see it, you have to recognize that if you have new risks added to Bitcoin, then it's not Bitcoin that we like to talk about when we talk about the hard, secure money. So I don't rip on any of these projects. I don't like if they could all create something really cool. I don't know. But what I'm saying is that the security risks are greater. Therefore, it is less valuable to me than layer one Bitcoin.
All right, there we go. That's a good addressing of the situation there. All right, let's move on to a topic Brandon reminded me about that I don't really care that much about, but other people are going to care about this. The FinCEN files. Oh, we've learned that banks are corrupt and have laundered money, done this, that, and the other, and also that FinCEN leaks its private information, I guess. Brandon, you want to speak about this? What's your tying it into Bitcoin, I guess?
Yeah, so a couple takes. First and foremost, one of Bitcoin's biggest knocks, the way that the mainstream discredits it, is by saying that it enables, criminals to launder money, right? I think the numbers have been thrown around about how much money has been laundered through Bitcoin is like single-digit billions, maybe. This was like over $1 trillion, I think, that has been laundered through the banks in the past decade, basically in the same existence of Bitcoin. I think this was starting in 2007, so a little bit, but they ended it in 2009 to 2017. So actually the exact same existence of Bitcoin. They've laundered trillions of dollars of money through these banks. And the difference between Bitcoin and these banks is that the banks are actively monitored, actively, someone said okay to this. Bitcoin's permissionless, Bitcoin's agnostic. If you use Bitcoin like that, it's a tool, you can, that's possible. These banks allowed it to happen. These banks allowed money to be laundered through them. They sent information over to FinCEN saying this money laundering was happening and nothing was done about it. So from my perspective, this is orders of magnitude, both from a value perspective and from a culpability perspective, worse than money laundering happening on Bitcoin. Because like the frustrating thing to me is no one's going to go to jail. This is illegal actions happening with the US dollar that we have regulatory bodies in place to make sure don't happen. It happens anyway. And at worst, you're going to get like a fine that equals to some part of your bottom line. And you just factor that in. It is frustrating beyond the pale to me. But it also shows just how, important Bitcoin is in all of this.
All right. Linear Trav.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. I can't say I'm shocked when I read about this, and it reminds me of the Panama Papers from 4 years ago or so. I mean, I don't think most of those people that were transferring money back then were crooks, but they were basically doing the same thing, using the banks to move money, to hide it for their own gain. I mean, they call it money laundering, but really it's just people moving money. And, but the laws are written for us people that actually obey the laws, right? The people that don't, they have the ability to just completely circumvent because they have the power. And it reminds me of the quote, rules for thee and not for me, right? I mean, all these people printing and from the highest levels up, they're obviously allowing this. And, like Brandon said, there's not going to happen anything to these people. They'll get a slap on the a slap on the hand, and the harsher restrictions are going to be put on people like us, that are working hard for our money to stack our sats. And I really think that kind of what Brandon alluded to is that they're going to put a bigger crackdown on Bitcoin, which, I mean, just beyond the pale.
Well, we'll get to that in a second if it's going to cause a bigger crackdown on Bitcoin, because I see good signs in the United States, at least, of them being more accepting of cryptocurrency. But let's Truth Raider, what is your take on this on these FinCEN files and its relation to Bitcoin in any way?
I like when the stories come out, and this is why I'm a Bitcoin first person. Like, there's Bitcoin, and then there's everything else, right? So like, there will never be anything like Bitcoin. I don't care what else comes out. So like, the thing that's funny that for me, because I'm probably like a 95% Bitcoin guy, right? And I like a little bit of some of their stuff. So Ethereum is making a play to be a bank. If you look at all of the centralized finance companies that are popping up, most of them are being built with Ethereum, right? So like, if you look at BlockFi or Celsius or all these other ones, it's just like it's Ethereum becoming a bank. So you don't think that once all of these companies become a lot bigger with bigger financial institutions backing them, that they're going to not play the same games that we're seeing played out in the Panama Papers or the FinCEN files? They're going to do the same stuff. It's all going to be the same. So like, I feel like Bitcoin was created because of all of these problems, and we're going full circle, and we're recreating banks on the blockchain. You know, that's what I feel like we're doing. Like the whole space is just like we're just making it to where it's because people say that if it's on the blockchain, it can't be corrupt. You can't money launder. Why not? Why not? Why not? Of course you can. Of course you can money launder on the blockchain. Like it doesn't matter which chain you're using. You can money launder. You know, that's bullshit. Like in my opinion. You know?
I think traditional entities are going to use cryptocurrency in their traditional ways, and they're welcome to do that. That's the bottom line right there. Oh no, did I interrupt you? I didn't. If you have something else to say.
No, I was agreeing. Like if you're a professional money launderer, you're going to use whatever tools you have in your tool chest.
There you go. Well, let's talk about the. Well, I guess when we're talking about regulation here, what's approved of, what's not. The Office of the Comptroller and Currency issued stablecoin guidance this week. Coinbase's chief legal officer praised the move in a series of tweets today. Banks were given the go-ahead to hold reserves for stablecoin issuers. All right. And a Coinbase guy said, we're happy to see regulators embrace innovations like stablecoins and provide much-needed guidance on how they fit within the current banking framework. We hope this will lay the foundation to national banks being able to custody and transact in stablecoins themselves, he added. Now, I'm going to say that stablecoins are centralized. Stablecoins are now apparently they're on the good side of the governments of the United States government. So I think that's a positive that they have allowed a cryptocurrency, quote unquote, to be on their good side. And I think in the long run that's good for Bitcoin. And to tell you the truth, 4 or 5 years ago, I couldn't imagine this day happening where a government bureaucratic agency is saying, yeah, we're cool with the cryptocurrency. And Coinbase is like, yes, we hope that eventually banks will be able to store it like money. And so, what's your take on this? We'll start with a linear track.
To me, it sounds like what Facebook was trying to do. I mean, they had a basket of currencies that were pegging it to $1. I mean, essentially, that's what these stable coins are. They're, a digital currency pegged to the dollar. But I'm just trying to see. This is new to me. I'm trying to understand what the difference is. I mean, they don't want one corporation, I guess, like they did with Facebook,
but maybe this is a step toward Facebook being approved for what they're doing. I think one can maybe extrapolate a little bit. That's what I mean. I'm just throwing it out there. When you brought up Facebook, is cool. The government. Well, one part of the government wasn't too cool about Facebook printing their own money, but maybe the OCC will be cool about it. I don't know. Anything else you have on this matter?
Well, I mean, that's just funny. Having different government entities coming at each other with completely different views and different goals and different methods of police. It's just. It's always the highest one that wins, though.
Well, and I'm more so referring to also, the Congress people who were just they were just doing it all for a big show to say, we hate Facebook, we don't want them to print their own money. But behind the scenes, if they're told to do, hey, these other stable coins are going to be fine, and it's they'll be down with that possibly. So let's. Brandon, what's your take on the Office of the Comptroller of Currency saying that stable coins are kosher, I guess?
So a couple things. I think, like, first and foremost, from what I understand, they're just saying that banks are allowed to hold the dollar reserves that the stable coins are pegged to, right? I think that's what I understand from it.
But I mean, that's part of a big. I mean, yeah, yes, it is. That is true.
So,
I got that out of it also, but that's big. That's big.
well,
Also.
yeah. So, but what I'm saying though is, like, first and foremost, if they were saying, banks can just hold stable coins on their balance sheet kind of thing, which is not what it says, that'd be crazy.
But he's saying, well, in the statement that I read, they hope we're one step closer to that now, and we are one step closer to that, definitely.
Yeah. So I'll give you the take on that first. Would be, Bitcoin's a stable coin. It's stable to one Bitcoin. So as soon as they allow stable coins, they allow Bitcoin. So I think that's really interesting. Like, what is a stable coin? Are you going to say that a stable coin is equivalent to like 1-to-1 to $1? So you can't have a stable coin that, at all changes that make it, like, they're going to have to broaden it. And then eventually it's going to allow all the other currencies, all the other cryptos to get swept up under it. And it's going to just, like, open the floodgates. So that's first thing. Second thing, I wish I was a fly on the wall in Bitfinex's office when this came out and they all read it, because holy cow, would they have been in a much better place if they could have just used a bank for Tether in the US. Those poor guys that used that bank out in, what was it, like the Caribbean, or that like, they ended up being frauds, stole all the money, and then we ended up seizing it from them, and they had like $800 million or 800, was it $800 million? Yeah, $800 million shortfall because it got seized by the government. That totally wouldn't have happened if they could have just used a U.S. bank that, wasn't comfortable with skirting all the regulations and ended up being, allowing money laundering, ironically enough. So my two takes there would be, interested in seeing what comes next, and poor Bitfinex, they must be really annoyed right now, but also excited that it makes Tether easier to manage.
All right, Truth Raider.
I mean, my take is that they're looking for a taxable event, and this helps. So, I mean, there's no way that the SEC, there's no way that the IRS, there's no way that the governments of the world have any idea to know what the hell we're doing, unless they get the banks to accept something like a stable coin that shows people's working salary. So let's say whatever your job is, and you put your money in a bank and then you start doing transactions. They need a mechanism, aka a bank, which means we're going back full circle. We're going pre-Bitcoin, we're going Bitcoin, and we're going right back to pre-Bitcoin by introducing stable coins back. It's like a full circle. So my take is, yeah, it's great for the price of Bitcoin if all you care about is store value, but it's a loss for the industry, because the more adoption we get from banks, the more we go back into being a bank. So that's why I like Bitcoin the most, is because everything that gets created after, it seems like we go back to 2007, 2008, and it's just like, I don't know. I don't know.
I got one more thing to add to that, though. I mean, you said you said a stable coin used as a store of value, right? That's something that's
no, I didn't mean that. I meant,
okay.
I meant a gateway. So
okay.
They need a taxable event to get to the Bitcoin, right. And stable coins are that taxable event. Yeah. Because that's how people get around taxes, is without having to go through a bank transaction. This brings you back, and it closes the loop between Bitcoin, a stable coin, and a bank. That's what I meant.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
As far as the stable coin having a store of value, I mean, you got to think they have the 2 to 5% inflation rate built in, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't mean the stable coin. I meant the government only does this stuff to produce a taxable event to get to your crypto. That's my point. And the store value is that final step, which is hopefully people realizing that Bitcoin is better than everything else.
All right. Brandon, you were you about to say something else there?
Well, so if I could jump in and just kind of give my own 2 cents, or my own 2 sats, what we were talking about earlier, like everything kind of gets rebuilt. I actually don't think necessarily is a bad thing, because I think what we end up realizing from the market is telling us that there are certain things, limited things that banks do that we find have value, and we're willing to sacrifice, security or, imbue trust into this organization in order to have that. And so I'm not surprised that some of these, banks, crypto banks are being created. And if they bring value, then they will continue to exist. I think the difference between what legacy financial system and crypto banks is that legacy banks have to, like, the system has been built up and regulated so hard that those banks have to exist. And so because of that, we can't get rid of them, and they don't have to provide value because they can't go away. They're too big to fail, right? Similarly, and this is my own fringe take in this space, but like governments have superimposed their own existence on everything, and like taxes don't really go anywhere anymore, right? But governments at their core, there is a value prop there. There is a reason why governments existed in the first place, and so as the system augments onto crypto, governments will augment onto crypto too. And the question is, the funny thing that I think about is the way that we tax, the way that the government has income and revenue is outdated, and it doesn't work on crypto. And they're trying to form fit it onto what happens in Bitcoin, right? And it won't work, and they'll continue to slip away. And they've got to iterate. And the new technology should force governments to iterate, to figure out how they can collect taxes and how they can continue to provide value in a world that doesn't necessarily need them for everything anymore. And so that'd be my 2 cents, is that it will all come onto Bitcoin eventually, but that we will see some sort of iterated version where they are forced to once again prove their value and their worth to the community in order for them to be allowed to exist.
All right. Pound that like button, people. Okay, we're gonna stick with the brand. Brandon, you had a question, a poll you put out there on Twitter that I thought was hilarious, and I'm going to ask everybody here just to give a quick answer on that. What happens to DeFi when Bitcoin starts pumping? Trav, what do you think?
I think if Bitcoin starts pumping, all that DeFi crap is probably going to go faster, higher. So you might see more than 1.2 billion come in, to be honest.
Okay, I like that take. Truth Raider.
I mean, is DeFi just ICO season, or is it something that's real? I don't know the answer to that. All I know is that.
Well, I know the answer. I think it's just ICO season. Sorry.
I'm just that's a rhetorical question. What is it? It feels like ICO season.
It sure does. All right. What do you, Brand? So, Brandon, what do you think? Answer your own question there. What happens to DeFi when Bitcoin starts pumping?
So the short answer is I don't know, because that's why I asked the poll, right? The long answer is I think there's 2 types of DeFi. There's one DeFi that's ICO season that you guys are talking about. That's what everyone kind of knows. I think that is going to actually pump. Along with Bitcoin, because it is ultimately it's leverage on top of Bitcoin to some extent, and it's it's just how it works, right? Liquidity will, once Bitcoin pumps, it'll kind of slow down. People will exit out into these shit coins that then, or the bad coins that end up, pumping because it's like an escape route from Bitcoin, right? That's the first thing. But the second type of DeFi, which is leverage on stable coins, that I think will actually not pump and may actually start to crack and crumble and collapse, because people don't want, you're forced to sit in stable coins while everything else is pumping around you at a rate that's much higher than, even 100% annualized yield that some of these things are cranking out. So it's I think that actually ends up collapsing. And then if that collapses, then every other DeFi part in some extent will also collapse. So it could be like a huge house of cards. So I don't know. That's my gut, but my gut could be completely wrong with all this.
Yeah, well, I like your explanation of part 2 there, that explaining what would happen with the stablecoin based ones. But going to the ones that are just ICO like nonsense, of course we can go back to 2017 when Bitcoin pumped. All the ICOs pumped like madness. I mean, a lot of people just remember it for that. The ICOs going wild. So I can see that same thing happening again. It's cyclical, as I say. Now, let's talk about the crypto gossip corner of the week. I don't like crypto gossip usually. It's noise, but he's reared his ugly head again. And he's not ugly. I mean, he's an all right looking dude. Portnoy was interviewed by a Pomp. All right, Pomp likes to interview these. That's his business. Has Dave Portnoy jumped the shark in Bitcoin? Should we care? What is your take, Truth Raider?
I think my personal take is I think he gets it. I watched the interview. I think he understands. He's just making crazy money right now. Like, it's hard for him to see through all the money he's flowing in. Like, even outside of his whole little stock game he plays on Twitter and Periscope, which is just a game because he's got sponsors and all this. He's making unbelievable amounts of money with Barstool Sports. That it's like, how do you see Bitcoin when you're swimming in dollar bills?
Well, he said Bitcoin is just one big Ponzi scheme, but I guess that's one of his just eye-catching statements there or something.
I think he gets it, man. I think he just I think he's just swimming in money, but I think he gets it. I really do.
All right. Yeah, excellent. And Linear Trav, what do you think?
I'm not quite convinced that he's there yet, because he did call it a Ponzi scheme, and he said he sees no rational reason why it goes up day to day, like he knows with the stock market, right? But Bitcoin, I think, is, just to get to the edge of the rabbit hole, you have to hear about Bitcoin 5 to 7 plus times. I think he's probably close to the edge, but he's definitely not all in. But I do got to say, those weak hand memes, those were killer.
All right,
that's what I'm here for.
Brandon.
So first off, life in society is one big Ponzi scheme. So this is in some ways like a little bit of a glimpse into how everything else works. The dollar is a huge Ponzi scheme. So I think actually it was very cool. I listened to the interview. I thought, first off, as a media guy, it was fascinating. Portnoy, Barstool is one of the coolest companies in the media space. Everyone should pay attention to them. So from that perspective, it was cool to hear that kind of side. I think Portnoy will be a huge Bitcoiner in the next bull run. I think he'll be one of the biggest advocates for it as he starts getting his feet wet. And it, like, this exposes the stooly, segment a little bit more to Bitcoin, with a little bit more, it feels more real this time than when you're talking about asteroid mining with the Winklevi. So I thought it was great. I thought it was really entertaining. Everyone should watch it, honestly. As a Bitcoin magazine, it's not our content. I think everyone should watch it. It was great. And I think Portnoy, he's a one of a kind, and to have him as a Bitcoiner, I think is really cool. And he does get it. He does get it. Just give him some time.
All right. Now we're going to get to the part of the show where everybody can talk about what they're doing, talk about things that I didn't bring up, news stories. But first, I want to bring up something that I got a message. Hey, Adam, do you know any Bitcoiners who would be interested in managing social media for a Bitcoin startup? So I linked to it below. You can contact Dennis about it. People say they need jobs. People say they're in motion. Well, here's something you can do, people. This is a job in this space. There are all sorts of jobs in this space, from marketing to technical. Do you know any Bitcoiners who would be interested in managing social media for a Bitcoin startup? So I'm giving to the community here. This is an opportunity. It's just so funny when I do give out opportunities like this. So few people actually respond. It says a lot. Well, we're going to start with we'll start with Brandon real quick, because I just want to say that you're already starting to talk about the 2021 Bitcoin conference, okay? And also, you are in Nashville, which has gotten a lot of press lately. Well, Ben Shapiro is moving there. He's getting out of California, and he's taking his business to Nashville. And this started like making me wake up. Like, wait a second, Tennessee's got a really friendly tax policy, and there are quite a few people moving to Nashville now, and there's so many people leaving California now. So you're going to have an event in California, but you are in Nashville. So I just gave and you could talk about anything you wanted right now. I'm just throwing a lot of stuff out there for you. So take it away.
Yeah, well, I mean, one trend that's going to come from this whole crisis of this year is that people are going to reevaluate where they're living, and they're going to go places where the security and safety is better, and the quality of living is better, and a little bit more areas to, ironically, extend your elbows. So I think Nashville will benefit from that. From a couple of the shout outs, of course, Bitcoin 2021 is April 30th through May 1st of next year. If you love Bitcoin, if you're interested in Bitcoin, come check it out. Our headliners are Tony Hawk, Nick Szabo. We got Pomp on there. We got, all sorts of cool speakers in the pipeline. So stay tuned. I would also say Shana Tova. It's a new year. And, for me, it feels like 2020 is over. So I'm going to pretend like this is a brand new year for me and move forward. And I would also say, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Ron Paul had a bit of a medical emergency a little bit earlier. So thoughts and prayers with his family. It looked really scary. So, hopefully he'll be okay.
Well, breaking news. I had no idea that was going on. I'm going to have to look that up on Twitter real quick. Any other things you want to, any news stories that were forgotten? Nothing else you want to throw out there?
That covers it for me.
All right, Brandon, you rock it, baby. Happy New Year indeed. I guess people are like, oh, those Jewish people are so lucky. It's a new year for them. Yeah, there you go. There you go. All right, let's go to Linear Trav. Oh yeah, Linear Trav. I know what you're going to bring up. Yeah, bring it up.
Yeah, my heart goes out to Ron Paul too. I saw that video. It was disturbing, to be honest. I hope he's okay. One thing I was going to bring up is not Bitcoin related. As a tech guy, there's only a few things that really make me as bullish as I am on Bitcoin, and that's Tesla. This week, they had their investor and battery day outlining their new battery tech. And why is that big? I think they are coming out with new batteries in a few years that are 54% higher range, have a 56 kilowatt hour reduction with 69% cheaper cost to build. I think this is truly revolutionary, as it will change the game for both electric storage and electricity use with automobiles. I think the future is electric, and they're way ahead of the pack. So as far as bullish as I am on Bitcoin, I think Tesla's right there behind. Their stock's gone up crazy this past 6-8 months, but I think their tech is even more amazing.
2020s, it's the golden age. I love dudes like Elon Musk that are innovating, and I love innovative money. I love what people are creating in the space. Keep on creating whatever you're doing. I agree with it, but creation is better than destruction. So I'm glad you brought that up. Real quick, message from Ron Paul. I'm doing fine. Thank you for your concern. And there's a picture of him in the hospital bed. So it looks like whatever happened to him, he's doing better than what was going on, apparently. So we will conclude here with the new guy to the show, Truth Raider. You rocked it today, man. What do you have to share? And all these guys are linked to below, so please follow them, of course.
For sure. No, I think for me, like, the big thing is just the realization that we're super young right now as an industry. Like, people don't realize like the growth potential. And so for me, what's more exciting is I like to look at stuff outside the States. I like what's being built in Africa. I like what's being built in South America. I got into Bitcoin, and I like Bitcoin because of the opportunity it provides people. And so, like, from my perspective, that I hope that as an industry we help rebuild economies that are being destroyed by fiat and by bad governance, everywhere from Venezuela to places in Africa and things that are going on in Lebanon and good. When all the dust settles, that's kind of my hope. And will it happen? I don't know. Maybe it's just optimism, but I hope for that.
I really like your worldly view because there's so much going on outside the United States. Now, there's tons of Bitcoin stuff going on in the United States, no doubt about it. I think I think it's the capital of the Bitcoin world. But what it can do in these other countries, I've been to Africa, I've been to South America, and it's great what's going on. And I think you ended it on a really positive note there. So. All right, dudes. Best freaking guest in the space here. I bring you every single Friday. It's This Week in Bitcoin. Subscribe to the channel, people. Pound that freaking like button. Goodbye, my elite friends. I forgot to say hello, my elite friends, at the beginning of the show. Shabbat shalom. Everybody have a good fast on Yom Kippur. And thanks a lot, everybody. Subscribe. And it cut me off. Whatever. It did it on its own. So bye, dude. That's fine. All right. So good.